Okay. So, hello everyone. Good evening, and we are gathered one more time here before we take a break for summer. This is our June wellness webinar, and today we have Jim Standish as our speaker, and he's going to talk about water. He doesn't need any introduction as such because we all know who is he. So, here, Jim, over to you.
Okay, just like that. Welcome everybody to the June Wellness Webinar. Those that have been kind of with me for a little while realize that I'm really good maybe live. Sometimes the video thing is a little bit more challenging for me. And it's just because I maybe don't feel as comfortable on camera as, you know. But anyways, let's just kind of kick off the road dust a little bit. I want everybody to kind of be comfortable. Once upon a time, we used to arrive to meetings on horseback, and we were covered with dust and everything. So you come to that old saying, it's like dust yourself off a little bit. So my name is Jim Standish. I am coming to you live from Jamestown, Rhode Island, USA, Connecticut Island, home of the Narragansett peoples, home of the Narragansett waterways. And I do want to acknowledge Juneteenth, right? It's a holiday now. Happy Juneteenth. Interestingly, it's my mom's birthday today. So she would have been 100 years old today had she made it that far. So Juneteenth, we joke in the family that, look, Mom, they actually have a holiday named for you now. So, and one of her big things was strawberries. So about this time of year, the strawberries really come in local, and Kathy and I would, always, go pick some strawberries and bring some up to her. That was like her thing, And a quick shout out to some of the guests. I just wanted to look and see who's here. Everybody got to say hi to Dr. Dave. So Dr. Dave is joining us tonight from Missouri, right? From Kansas City, Missouri.
Kansas City,
Or
Kansas, but right
Kansas City,
across the
Kansas.
state line.
There you
Home
go.
of Patrick Mahomes, that's what counts.
Yeah, well, I wasn't going to go there.
I know, but you have to go there.
So, I would consider myself maybe a water geek at best. Dr. Dave is a literal water scientist, and we talked a little bit about that. That he was the lead scientist at Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute in Cape Cod, and a lot of us may know of that organization, but they are arguably one of the most prestigious oceanographic organizations on the planet, and do a lot of very, very important work. So hats off to you, Dr. Dave, for all your work in the water world. So quick summary. I'm gonna do a little bit of name dropping, and I just kind of want you guys to go like, yeah, if you've ever heard any of these names before. Has anybody ever heard of Masaru Emoto? So Dr. Emoto. Okay, Suzanne's heard of Emoto, and you guys have never heard of Masaru Emoto. Yeah. And Vandana has. Okay, so all of these people I'm going to introduce right now, and we're going to take a little bit of a deep dive into some of their work. So if you do have the opportunity to take notes, I'm going to really ask you to take notes. I'm going to try to move very quickly and give you a lot of information. I am going to share with you where to look, and I'm not going to tell you what to find. Because this is really a personal journey, right? So as we mentioned these really important water scientists, I would love you to write their name down, and I have some video presentation if I can figure out how to share my screen, and we can look at their pictures and their names, and you can actually write down their names and stuff. Pollock, Jerry Pollock. Anybody heard of Jerry Pollock? Gerald Pollock. He was the gentleman that kind of categorized and talks about fourth phase of water, right? That water is a liquid, it's a gas, it's a solid, and also when we get into this, when we start looking at this, we're going to look at structured water, and how structured water actually has a surface tension and a resistance, and Jerry calls it fourth phase of water. Luc Montagnier. Now there's a name for you. Does anybody know that name? Luc Montagnier recently won a Nobel Peace Prize, very recently. I'm not going to get into the controversial side of that. He was very outspoken about some things that went down recently, and he died mysteriously. And I'm going to leave it at that. Victor Schauberger. Now this is another name that we're going to look at. Victor Schauberger was born in late 1800s, was prolific in World War II. Unbelievable inventor. He invented all kinds of crazy things. So we're going to look at him, look at his inventions. His thing was to study and mimic nature. So he actually came up with all kinds of really unique plumbing devices and pipes and stuff. And like I don't know, we'll get there. Victor Schauberger. MJ Pagman, Mary Pagman. We're going to look at her work. She has a website called Dancing with Water, something that you're going to really want to check out. And we're going to go there. We're going to look at the website. Lots and lots and lots of information there. Also some products. And Veda Austin, another incredible gal. Veda Austin, she's in the world down under. She took Dr. Emoto's work, and we're going to look at his work. We're going to look at what he did. She took her work to like an unbelievable level. We're going to look at pictures. So Emoto's thing was pictures in water, right? And taking pictures of water crystals and seeing how the crystals change by how we influence the crystals. Veda took it to a whole nother level and can demonstrate that water knows what you're thinking about before you're even thinking it. All right, so I'm going to leave it at that. It's really crazy stuff.
I follow Veda Austin on
Pardon?
Facebook. I follow her. I know. I have seen her work.
Yeah, she's wow. And
Mhm.
again, photographic evidence. And we're going to get into this, this whole photographic evidence thing. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see if we can do this. And is everybody seeing that okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Wonder of water. And can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. We're going to dive in. So my little notes, I took little crib notes so that I can keep on track. And my note says dive in. So we're diving in. Okay. Next slide. The wonder of water. So as you guys may or may not know, I am not a medical professional. So the use of any of my recommendations would be for experimental purposes only. The FDA has not approved or evaluated any of the tools, resources, recommendations, and or aids that I am about to share with you. Now, all of the products, procedures, and information are not intended to diagnose, treat, mitigate, prevent, and or cure any dis-ease or medical condition. Now, none of the products, procedures, and information replaces or substitutes for the advice of a practicing medical doctor or other qualified, medical healthcare professional. If you believe that you or a loved one suffers from any dis-ease, malady, or medical condition, I highly recommend that you seek the advice of a qualified practicing MD or medical profession for the diagnosis and or treatment. Thank you. I know if I fall down and break my arm, I'm going to the doctor. Okay, so, and now this is another thing, if you guys have come to meetings and stuff, this is another thing that I like to do. This is a Tlingit tradition. I lived in Alaska. I went to school in Alaska and spent a lot of time with Eskimos. And this is kind of one of their things where I'm going to throw a blanket over you to protect you from my words. Now, what does that mean? Now, it's just understand that you and I come from different perspectives, and that perspective can be explained really simply that if I were to take this bottle of water and stand in the middle of a room and hold this bottle of water up, and I'm in the middle of a room now, and let's say there's 500 people in the room. Every person would have a different view of this bottle of water. And I'm just going to stand there and hold it. Now, let's say somebody in the back of the room has glasses and they're able to see a little bit more than other people. And they might see this thing like it says Maine on there, Maine. And they're like, oh, I can see that it's from Maine, right? And they create all these stories about the water being from Maine. And maybe like over in the other part of the room, maybe somebody sees this word tourmaline, and maybe they see that little tourmaline crystal up there, and then they start making up all these stories about tourmaline and everything, right? So as time goes on and the stories go on and on and on, the stories get more and more embellished. And then, one day the people from the back of the room, and the people from the other room, like, not only did they have glasses, a couple of people had binoculars, and then like, the people over here were able to like develop telescopes. So what I'm getting at is that from this one bottle in the middle of the room, we could create an infinite amount of stories. And as the stories go on and as time goes on, the stories evolve and and I heard about the tourmaline spring, and so you can just imagine that perspective where I'm looking at this bottle of water creates perspective. And from that perspective comes perception, what you perceive. I'm looking at it. I think I see something. I perceive something. From that perception comes a belief system, or you create more stories, you create belief systems. From the belief system comes behavior, right? Because you've got perspective, and I can see things, and I create all these stories. So you can see how this goes, guys, right? So we come from different areas, we all have different perspectives, but at the end of the day, if we all get together and we all look at the bottle of the water, we're all going to be able to sit down and say, look, it was a bottle of water all along. Okay. So we all come from different perspectives. So for me to throw a blanket over you to protect you from my words simply means that if I use a word that upsets you, it's your opportunity to look at yourself and the word that upset you. Because I promise you, I am never going to use words that would intentionally harm you. I'm going to do my best to choose my best words. And if I do say something that upsets you or, makes the hair stand up in the back of your neck, rather than looking at me and say, Jim's a jerk, say like, Jim used this really weird word and, the word got me upset. So look at the word and how that affects you. I'm never going to throw words at you. And if you look at all the ancient languages, right? The ancient languages were like petroglyphs. They were signs. Like a tree was a picture of a tree and a house was a picture of a house. So the English language can be very deceiving because there's multiple words for every, multiple meanings for every word. So if you use a word, you need to know how you use the word in context so that you can understand. If you're asking somebody a question, the person needs to know how the words are used in context so they can answer the question properly, because there's so many different meanings for all our little words in English. Wow, I'm exhausted. All right, so I will throw a blanket over you to protect you from my words. If I say anything crazy, I'm about to, you'll be all right. Okay, here we go. Look, water, water everywhere, and not a drop to drink. Have you ever heard that before? No, you've heard that saying, right? Why is, did you know that there are an estimated 326 million quadrillion gillion zillion gallons on the on water on Earth? Approximately 98% is from the oceans, and it's undrinkable because of the salt content. So that means then less than 3% of our planet's water is fresh, found in the ice caps, glaciers, swells, aquifers, rivers, and lakes. You are, as a human being, as a little body, you're made up of 84 minerals, 23 elements, 8 gallons of water, divided by 38 billion cells that all talk to one another. Average adult man, 60% water. Average adult woman, slightly less, 55%. Who comes up with these things? I don't know. And that's the other thing I forgot to tell you really early on, is that everything I'm going to share with you tonight, I didn't make up. Nothing I'm going to share with you, I made up. It's stuff that I've picked up along the way. So, if you question some of the stats, I just found them. This is kind of cool. I thought this was really cool. 1 second, sound travels 344 meters through dry air. So like if you yell, 344 meters per second. Look how fast it moves through fresh water. Look how fast it moves through seawater. I mean, compare that. That's crazy, right? 344 meters through the air if I'm yelling at you. 1522 meters through seawater. Now we've always asked, we talk about how whales talk, right? And they say that, whales can talk to each other over miles and miles and miles. This makes a lot of sense now, right? I mean, we can yell at each other all we want, but the whales have salt water. Who knew? Okay, so average human body, 50 to 70% water. In your 20s, this is just all more stats. And what I'm doing, guys, I'm just trying to fill your head with all this crazy stuff about water. Believe me, we haven't even scratched the surface yet. So in your 20s, your body was about 60% water. Around age 50, it decreases, 47% women, different for men and women. I don't know. I didn't make this stuff up. Your brain and heart are composed of 73% water, lungs about 83%, skin 64%, muscles, kidneys 71%, bones 31%. This is the part that's kind of interesting, is that there are 9 essential amino acids that are necessary to grow your body, repair your body. So this is not a gut health seminar, but because the last one talked about amino acids and they're essential, and why is it essential? Here's why they are essential. That's because you can't find them anywhere else. Your body doesn't make them. You need them to keep going. So here's some more. Did you know? These water quotes are kind of interesting, I think. Lao Tzu, I don't know if you guys have heard of Lao Tzu, famous Chinese philosopher, who has a couple different books. The Tao Te Ching is a very famous book of, you might call, poetry. The story goes that Lao Tzu was a very well-known, prolific philosopher in his time. He kind of got frustrated with humanity. The story goes, he hopped on his horse. He left the city. He was like, I'm out of here. And one of the guards was like, Lao Tzu, you can't just go. You can go. You need to write a few things down before you go. And this is where the Tao Te Ching came from. Those were his last writings before he took off. Don't know or wasn't there. It's just a story. We know the worth of water till the well is dry, right? That's a good one. This is a fantastic one. You're not a drop in the ocean. You are an entire ocean in a drop. That is awesome. That's an awesome book. And Bruce Lee, empty your mind, be formless, shapeless, be like water. You put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water in the bottle, it becomes the bottle. Water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend. Bruce Lee. All right, so now this is where it starts to get interesting, and Dave will be interested now because we're going to get scientific. So oxygen, 2 levels of hydrogen. So the water molecule, H2O, is known as a dipole molecule. I'm not reading this, but hopefully I said that right. Right? And considered not only a molecule, but also considered a compound. So if you look at the little animation going there, right? If we consider that the molecule itself is a dipole molecule, so there's 1 part oxygen, 2 parts hydrogen. And you can see that the oxygen is positively charged, that the hydrogen is negatively charged, and that the negatively charged hydrogen naturally reaches out for the positively charged oxygen. Now, I'm just going to stay on screen share. You guys can see, you don't really care, right? We're just going to leave it on screen share, and you can see my little self in the corner, right? If we were all in a room together, say there was, like earlier we were talking about the bottle and we were talking about perspective. If there were 50 of us in a room together and the room started spinning around, would you say that it might be natural behavior for us humans to kind of reach out and grab each other's hands, right? I mean, picture yourself on the ride at the whatever it is, the circus that comes to town, that thing that spins you around, right? If we were sitting in a room and the room just took off, we'd reach out and like try to grab each other's hands. That's what water does. That's all it does. And that's what this little diagram shows, is that if we were to look at water, I'm going to look at the next slide, talks about a vortice, and we're probably going to jump back and forth between these 2 slides. Now, if we observe water in its natural state, open and flowing, we always see a spiral. And again, I'm going to invite you to go out in nature and look at this for yourself. If you sit next to a stream, a pond, any kind of flowing water, if you look at the sides, over in the sides of the stream, you will see that the water is always spinning. It's always ebbing down in the corners. If you go to the ocean, and the tide recedes, and you see all the little tidal pools. If you just stand there and look at that water in the tidal pool, you will see that it is spinning, 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 spinning. It's an entire another deep dive. I will share with you that it is the Fibonacci spiral, that there's an incredible amount of math that goes into it. We could potentially say that it's almost like a fingerprint of the Milky Way galaxy. The Milky Way galaxy is a spiral. If we look at everything on this planet, it is spiraling. If you guys, and so again, take notes, take notes, take notes. Fibonacci spiral. It was an Italian guy that named it after himself. 1400s, I think, 1400s, 1500s. If you do a deep dive on this spiral, you will see that it is everywhere in nature. It is everywhere. It is in sunflowers. It is in everything. One really crazy, really cool thing, and I was going to take a video of this, is that humpback whales, when they exhale, the bubbles form a Fibonacci spiral. And that a group of killer whales can get together and actually go fishing. They use a series of exhales to create a net of Fibonacci spiral to collect fish. And this is true. It's crazy. You got to watch it. Pull up some videos about whales fishing with their Fibonacci spiral exhales. It's just, it is everywhere. It is everywhere in nature. So back to this. So it's part of this structuring thing, right? Where the water, as you watch this diagram, the water starts spinning, and it's spinning all the time anyways, just like we are in the room. The water reaches out and it grabs hands. What happens is if you look at that very last statement, water's chemical formula, H2O, is better known than any other compound. When cojoined or structured, the water becomes H3O2. 3 parts hydrogen, 2 parts oxygen, because you just tied it all together. Now, just think about that just for a second. We're going to go down this rabbit hole, but I want to plant the seed of you thinking about this, and especially with Schauberger's work, when we start seeing what Schauberger did and how he understood that water needed to stay in this natural formation. That think of how when you drink this, and what does your body do with a substance that now has potentially twice the amount of available oxygen? Just think about that. And we're going to come back to this. I'm just kind of dropping little seeds, and I want you to I'm not telling you what to find. I'm just telling you where to look. So we talked about the spiral. Now look at this. This is kind of crazy. The ancients knew this stuff, right? If we look at, I'm going to show some pictures of ancient water systems. Who knows? Tens of thousands. We're going to look at pre-Columbian stuff. That could be, I don't know, tens of thousands, 20,000s, 30,000. We don't know. Let your imagination go with that. We only know what we know.
Yeah, God.
So this is pretty cool. The Romans were famous, right, for the aqueducts. They were able to feed, 200 cities. They built these magnificent structures that are all over the place just to move water. And they knew how important fresh water was to a society. This one is a bunch of different water ones. So now this is, the Greeks also knew this too. So it just wasn't the Romans. So this first little diagram shows a little Greek structure. This is pre-Columbian. Now this is can you see my little cursor cruising around on the circle? Can you guys see that? This is a water collection system. Pre-Columbian. 10,000 years old, 20,000 years old. I don't know. These guys were smart. Look at can you see this one too? There's the little Chinese guys pedaling a thing to make a water mill to run water up and move it to a different spot. This is another diagram of a Greek setup where you can see these little pockets of water on the side of the hill, and they developed a system of digging holes, one hole bigger than the other, and a way of actually moving water through a natural process to deliver it to any place they wanted to on their own. So what I'm getting at is that the ancients knew that water really needed to be open and moving and breathing and doing its own thing. And if we, again, I'm going to go back to observe yourself, go out into nature, a waterfall, even a waterfall with the crazy photography we have these days, if you were to take a snapshot of a waterfall and you were able to dive in through nanotechnology and really explode that waterfall, you would see that the water drops are going like this. They're spiraling. They're going like this all the way down. Water wants to do this all by itself. So I want to look at some of the water scientists. And one of the first guys we talked about was this guy, Emoto. And he's probably one of the more famous water scientists. And I pulled this out of Wikipedia, and I want you to read the bottom because this is so funny. I'm going to blow this thing right out of the water right now. Okay, it says Masaru Emoto, born July 22nd, 1943, recently died October 17th, was a Japanese businessman, author, and in blueprint pseudoscientist who claimed that human consciousness could affect the molecular structure of water. Oh. Pseudoscientist. All right, so let's talk about this. Pseudoscience. You can see right now, potentially, that, and my wife would agree that, I kind of need a haircut. My hair's getting a little crazy. So if you were to take a picture of me right now, and you can see my hair's a little crazy, and if I went to the barber tomorrow, and let's say I got like a marine cut, man. Let's say like I went for it. I took all my hair off, and we took another picture. Now on Friday night, we all got together, and I was handing some pictures out. And there's Jim on Wednesday. His hair's all messed up. Here's Jim on Friday. Whoa, he got a haircut. Now, do we need a double-blind study? Can we look at those two pictures and just go,
Oh my God.
Wednesday, he needed a haircut. Friday, he got one. We took a picture. That's it. Really pretty simple. What Emoto did is he took photographs of water. He took a photograph before he said something to the water. He took a photograph after he said something to the water. Is that pseudoscience? I ask you. It's just a picture. It's just a photograph. It's photographic evidence. That's all it is. So a lot of these things with science, I mean, I thought that science was based on evidence. That, you do experiments, you come up with results, you look at the evidence, and you come to a conclusion. Right? Well, if it's a photograph, I don't know. Is there that much to talk about? Am I being crazy? You can tell I get a little crazy about this, right? Here's what he did. He took a bunch of pictures. And he froze the crystals, and he took a picture of it. So you literally can take the same glass of water. You can take a glass, say something to it, take a photograph of the crystal, take the same glass of water, say something else to it, take a picture of the crystal. I really don't know where pseudoscience comes in there. That's just a picture. And everybody kind of gets that, right? We're going to keep going. We're going to come back to this too, because Suzanne's going to help me here. Anyway, we're going to come back to this. So let me just keep going. So we talked a little bit about Emoto, okay? And I want to talk about these scientists because I really would love you guys to do some research on this yourself. Check these guys out. This stuff is crazy. We talked about Schauberger. Schauberger actually was he took care of forests in Germany. I forget what the word of that is. He's like I don't know, forest keeper, right? And he was just this original thinker. Like the guy was just an original thinker. His whole thing was observe and mimic nature. Now, at the beginning of the Nazi occupation, Hitler, as you know, was pulling in every scientist that he possibly could. Schauberger was one of those people. There's lots of stories that say that Schauberger did indeed build and create an anti-gravitational device. So we're talking about inventions that we may or may not know anything about today, that were worked on in the early 1900s and developed to a working degree in the 40s. It's all gonna, just be patient, guys. It's all coming. So just be patient. So Schauberger actually did work for the Nazis and created a lot of cool things. One of the things he did understand, and we talked about this, is that water needs to be spinning, 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 spinning. So you see that all these are Schauberger devices. He actually invented copper plumbing pipes that had a vortices in the pipe itself, so that when the water went down the pipe, it was able to keep spinning in the pipe itself. When we talk about this a little bit later, I'm going to present the notion that when we take water and stuff it into a half-inch pipe under high pressure and shoot it against 90-degree corners and get it all going all crazy all over the place, that we completely obliterate the structure, completely. And I think perhaps, I don't know, modern day water systems, I think that this information will come back around. I think that we will know about a little more about this in the future. I think that in the development of this country, I think history shows, the evidence shows that sometimes we make decisions that may or may not work out so good. We don't maybe think about the outcome of the decision and, whatever. So we have a plumbing system. Our entire plumbing system is destroying water before we even have a chance to drink it. But I don't want to go down any crazy holes. Okay. So Schauberger, check him out. He's got so many patents. I mean, it's like 90-something patents. You can pull up his patents. And if you're really, really super crazy, start building them. Here's some of these other guys. So Luc Montaigne, we talked about him. Pulitzer Peace Prize, just recently. Very interesting guy. Mu John, Japanese guy, Reiki practitioner who did a lot of studies with using water and Reiki. Really, again, really, really cool stuff. Check him out. Worth checking out. But Manji, I don't even know how you say it, is a Iranian water wizard. Again, just one of these water wizards. All these guys, we have pockets of people in different parts of the world that a lot of times have the same idea at the same time. So just as a little sidebar, right? We know in this country in the early 1900s, we had this guy, Albert Einstein was coming up with stuff. We have this guy, Thomas Edison, that kind of invented the light bulb or was trying to come up with a light bulb. We know crossed up in Russia, there was a guy named Tesla doing the same thing, right? Trying to figure out light bulbs. In India, there's a guy named Shanandra Bose, and you definitely check him out. His work also, all these guys had the same idea at the same time, and we're going to talk about, maybe talk about that, about the morphogenetic field and how consciousness can be shared almost instantly, globally, all across the world. But there's a guy in India, Shanandra Bose, check him out, BOSE, just like the sound system. He was experimenting with subtler forms of energy, also was playing with light bulbs, did a lot of experiments with plants, and could prove scientifically that plants respond to consciousness. That's not really hard to grasp, right? I mean, we know that a plant is a living thing. We know if we give it structured water, maybe even, and talk really nice to it, that the plant grows, right? Becomes a beautiful plant. So the notion to us that a plant is conscious is not hard to grasp. Check this out. He also concluded scientifically that metal responds to consciousness. Now, is that hard to grasp? Race car drivers talk to their cars all the time. Do you talk to your car? Do you go out and pat your car in the morning and say, hey, baby, how you doing? You know, a couple more miles. Bose did experiments, scientifically evidence-based. Metal responds to consciousness. Now, as holistic practitioners, we might know that rocks respond to consciousness. But all right, I'm getting crazy, guys. Okay, so Dr. Martin, another guy who had Pollock. I mentioned that name, right? Jerry Pollock. We're actually maybe going to watch some Jerry Pollock videos. I keep cruising because we're going to run out of time. Here we go. This is where Suzanne helps me out. So I do all this crazy information. I learned about all these science. I learned about Dr. Emoto. I learned all this stuff. So Suzanne asked me to be the guest speaker at the Rhode Island Dowsing Association. I don't know when it was. 2014, 13, 14, whatever, 15, I don't know. So at the time, it's really funny because I tried to be internally guided. You know what I mean? I listen and whatever, and I try to do whatever is told to me. So I'm like, all right, guys, I gotta talk to the Rhode Island Dowsing Association. I'm not even sure if I know what dowsing is. So I had to do a bunch of research on dowsing, right? So what is dowsing? I do all this research on dowsing, and so, what am I going to talk about? And like I get this message like, water, dude, talk about water. You know about water. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll talk about water. So I decided to replicate Emoto's experiment. Why not, right? Let's do this. So I took 4 different kinds of water, and you will see this one right here. Can you see my cursor on this one? Okay. So that is a bottle of Dasani water, and I'm not going to get into any brands or what's going on with different waters, but I know that reverse osmosis removes everything in water. It removes all its living components. It is clean water. It's certainly clean, but it's removed of everything. And honestly, water doesn't like it that much. And they actually put minerals back in. So knowing that Dasani is owned by the Coca-Cola company, I'm sorry, I didn't say that. Dasani is owned by Coca-Cola, and I know it's reverse osmosis. I figured it had to be maybe some fairly low privational water. Did I say that? So what I did is I bought a bottle of Dasani water, and I tried to emote as much negative emotion as I could. I took a black magic marker, and you can't see the things I wrote on there, but I wrote horrible things on there. I really did. I wrote horrible things. I wrote baby killer, genocide. I mean, I wrote a lot of horrible things on that bottle of water, and I threw it in the back of my truck, and I left it there for a week. That's what I did. So at the time, this was a few years ago, we're going to talk about different brands of water later on, but at the time, I really considered Fiji to be pretty good water. I mean, if it's anything like the commercials, right? Untouched by human hands. Well, I'm like, oh, it's got to be good stuff. So I used Fiji water as a base of one of my, experiments. I figured it's got to be pretty good stuff. So in the Fiji water in I didn't do anything to it. I did not do a thing to it. I let it sit in this little bottle. So what I did with all 4 of these bottles is I made sure that none of the bottles knew about one another. So I took the FU water and I threw it in the back of my truck. I took the Fiji water, didn't do a bloody thing to it. I put it on the shelf. I took this little guy over here, this little Fiji water, and I took a red magic marker and I wrote all kinds of little loving things on it. I wrote gratitude. I love you. I put little hearts all over it. And for an entire week, every day, multiple times a day, I played nice music for it. I kissed it. I hugged it. I held it in front of flowers. I patted it. I did everything that I possibly could. I tried to just emote as much love into that water as I possibly could. And then the last one over here was just a glass of water. And I am blessed to be on an old Indian well. I have a really old piece of property. I don't know, I even told you I live in Jamestown, home of the Narragansett peoples, home of the Narragansett waterways. I have they tell it's an old Indian well that's never run dry. I figured that's going to be pretty potent water. So I took that last water and I took the well water And I threw the kitchen sink at it. I did everything that I know how to do. I played somatic frequencies to it. I played solfeggio frequencies to it. I placed it on sacred picture. So I have all these little things, these little geometric shapes, because water, and we're going to get to this, hopefully, if I have time, water sees, it can see everything. I have all these little cool things that you can put a glass of water on that help structure it. I spun it. I structured it. Believe me, I did everything I possibly could to this bottle of water. I wanted it to be off the charts. Okay, so the day comes. Now, this is a whole week now, an entire week. I went crazy with one bottle of water. I mean, you've heard the whole story, right? So it's time to now Suzanne's waiting for me. It's time to go do this thing, right? So I wanted to be really careful, and I packaged every single water so that it couldn't see the other water. So if you look at here, we have all the different waters, right? 4 water samples, 4 different techniques, 4 different results. Now, we talked about that water is capable of receiving, holding, delivering a signal or a thought pattern. Each molecule, this is found by a Russian scientist. I didn't want to use the word 144,000, but there's a Russian scientist that claims that there are 144,000 memory pockets in each molecule of water. Wrap your head around that. So I've got these 4 different waters, and see how I labeled them? I didn't even let the water know what it was. I didn't, A didn't know it was A, B didn't know it was B, C didn't know it was C, D didn't know it was D. Then when I wrapped them all up, I made sure that, they couldn't see each other. I put them in a little cooler. I go to the meeting. Suzanne's there. All these dowsers are here. I set up a table on the back of the room, and then I did the same thing. I set each sample up so it was completely shielded like this with folders, so it couldn't see the water next to it. It couldn't see the audience. It couldn't see anything. All it knew is what it was. So we start the meeting. I said, look, you guys are dowsers. I don't know anything about dowsing. What I want you guys to do as a group, I want you to choose your 3 best dowsers. And as we're going through the talk here, I want you guys to come up one at a time and sit behind each one of these waters and just get an impression on it. Use your dowsing instruments, use whatever you want to do. I want to get you to get an impression on each one of these waters as the meeting's going on. So in the meantime, in a sealed envelope, this is a true story, in a sealed envelope, I wrote down what I did to each one of those waters. And I put it on a piece of paper, slid it across the table to the chairperson, and the meeting went on. So meeting's over now. Everybody's had their chance to play with one of these waters. And one of the guys, one of the guests was 80-year-old gentleman. Suzanne can verify this, right? He's an 80-year-old gentleman. He'd been dowsing since he was 13 or 14 or something. I mean, that's all he did is find wells his entire life, right? I'm like, this guy is a dowser. So meeting's over. Okay, guys. So, what did you find about the waters? And he said, well, one of the waters was devoid of life. Interesting. So, and I want to just submit to you guys that I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm nervous, right? I mean, I put all the results on a piece of paper. We did this thing. I don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea. I don't know. So the first thing he says, one of them was devoid of life. And I'm like, yeah. And, one of them was unnoticeable. It wasn't even that interesting. I'm like, okay. One of them was off the charts. So every time I'm fist pumping to myself, right? And one of them had the most love in it. And when he said that, I was like, I'm done. The other 2 people validated what he said. One of the waters had no life in it. One of them was uninteresting. One of them was off the charts. One of them had the most love in it. And I'm like, I'm listening to this. And Suzanne can validate this, right? I'm like, I'm losing it, right? I'm losing it to myself. And I'm okay, open the envelope. They opened the envelope, and wouldn't you know that they were able to identify each one of those waters and what I did to them. To me, that was validation. So all of us in the holistic healing field, we know that a lot of what we do is considered foo-foo, right? And we love to get evidence on foo-foo, because once you get the evidence on foo-foo, and then once you understand it in your heart and you know that you believe this, right? So this validated it for me off the charts. Done. I'm like, this is it. This is the real deal. So here you go. One of them had the most love in it. So there's the little love bottle, right? With the little gratitude, like, and I did. I played music for it. I hugged it. I kissed it. Blah, blah. So now my own conviction is up. One of my gentlemen that I work with breaks his hand right here, little tiny, breaks this little tiny bone right here. He was helping somebody move some furniture over the weekend, comes to work all bummed out. I don't know what I'm going to do. Doctor says I got to put a cast on. I won't be able to work. I can't make money. I'm like, Light bulb comes on. I said, experiment time. So I say, let's do this. We took a simple bottle of water. I took a magic marker and I showed him how to do this, because none of this stuff is any good. Like, you can program water for other people and say, oh, I put this into it and they drink it. So, but what I want to do, and we still have time, I'm going to show you how to do this yourself, how to put your own intention into the water, how to make water work for you. What I did is I wrote heal my bones on the bottle of water. I told them, look, as many times a day as you can, you're going to take a sip out of that. You're going to take that bottle of water and you're going to go like this. You can put it, and you're going to put it right there and put it right on your bone. You put it right there. Okay. He did that as many times as he possibly could. Goes back to the doctor after 30 days. Doctor takes x-rays. Doctor comes back in, says, well, obviously it didn't work. Says, oh, no, I worked every day. Says, what do you mean you worked every day? It's like, well, I'm a carpenter, man. I told you I need my hand. I can't have a cast. I need to work every day. And the guy's like, there was no sign of the break in the x-ray. Not even a hairline fracture, nothing. No sign of the break, completely gone. So again, it's just validation, right? Sends it off the charts for me. So now that I've loaded you with that much information, right? I'm going to kind of jump off. We're going to take a look at some quick videos so that I can, again, just kind of drive this stuff home a little bit. And then we're going to get into doing this, right? So has anybody coherence or coherence? And we talked about water structuring earlier, right? And how water structures. And when it structures, it becomes coherent. I had the experience of, has anybody heard of a Jesus Christ lizard? Has anybody heard of one of those things? You can, again, look it up in National Geographic. So I had heard of these things. I knew about them. It's a lizard that walks on water. So my wife and I went to Costa Rica a number of years ago. We got to be the first down this run. We're on a rapids run. And I get to see a lizard scoot right in front of me over. I mean, we were in rapids. The lizard was, I don't know, he was good size. He was about this big, running right. I mean, literally running over the rapids. Amazing. That is because the water is so pure, so structured, and when you start to understand this, and you look at Jerry Pollack's work, and you start to understand the structure, that it actually has surface tension to it. And we see this around here. We see this, you can see this in ponds, you can see this in little puddles, how the little bugs, right, can walk on top of the water. That's because the water has a surface tension to it. So now, if I can pull this up. So this is just a really quick video, and I'm still sharing, right? Can you guys see that? Okay, all of the expenses in this video are real. Okay, so this is just to show you what sound can do to water, and this is called cymatics. I just want you to watch this just for a second. Let me know if the volume works, if you can, if you can hear this. I'm going to turn it up a little bit on this side.
Jim, yeah. Actually, you need to stop sharing this screen, then choose the video one.
Ooh, so okay, so
Yeah,
I'm on share.
Yeah.
So put stop share.
Yeah, stop share.
Yeah.
Yeah, and go back again, like screen share. Yeah, and what window you want to share it? Just
Oh, I gotcha. Gotcha. See, they don't give me my site. No, this is not. Yeah, let's try this. All right.
Yeah.
That
And
better?
maybe you can maximize the window.
It's not what we're about to see. Has no characters. Whoop. That better?
Yes, perfect.
You guys can hear it okay?
Yes.
It's a film to describe to you the effect of cymatic frequencies on matter.
Can it go louder, Jim?
See, I'm up all the way there.
Oh,
Yeah, I've got the volume up all the way here. I would have to minimize the screen. It's okay. It's really probably more visual than anything. Okay. See, now we're gonna go. Now we're gonna see how to go stop it, right? Oh, did I need help now? Yay!
Maybe let me try. What does he say? Can you send me the link so that it will be cymatics, right? Jim,
All right, guys. So I'm actually just trying to turn it off, and I can't even stop it. Train wreck. Boom. Stop. Stop, stop, stop. There we go. Yay. Yay. Okay. We made it back. Wow, that was scary. I'm so technologically advanced. All right. So you get the point, right? So that if sound can make that kind of impression on sand, physical matter, you can imagine what it can do to water, right? So just kind of doing that as an example. Yeah. I really apologize, guys, because I have so many things pulled up, but I'm having a difficult time sharing it. So that's okay, because we're going to move right into this. We've got about 30 minutes left. So what I want to share with you now, of course, is that I've kind of loaded the guns a little bit, right? So now that you have this concept that I potentially could talk to my water, that I potentially could drink that water that I talked to, and that potentially the water could deliver to my body what I asked it to. So do you think that I've given you enough evidence for you to understand that and to kind of get that? Does that, right? Is that doable to you guys? Yeah.
yes.
Okay. So I mean, most of us, right? We chug down water and we don't even give it a second thought, right? Like, you're thirsty, you go to the store, you buy water, and you're like, I'm thirsty. Drink it down. And I mean, we don't even give it a second thought. So if water is life, we know that, it's one of the primordial elements on the planet. I mean, not too much happens without water. Not too much happens without light. If we know now that water, just through these experiments, and again, I want you to do some deep diving, find out on your own, validate this on your own, but if water is a living, breathing, conscious entity, and certainly check out Veda Austin. I mean, again, I had pulled up a bunch of videos. Apparently, I'm not that technologically advanced to be able to just pull up the videos and bounce in and out of them. Veda Austin can demonstrate conclusively that through photographs. So she took Emoto's work, kind of similar to I did, right? And validated it live. She can validate that. She'll take pictures of water. Water knows what you're thinking before you even think it, and can demonstrate that photographically. So how powerful is that? I mean, what I'm trying to do is to plant enough seeds for you guys to go out and really just play with it yourself. So we buy a bottle of water, we don't even think about it, right? What kind of water are you drinking? Now, real quick, this is probably the most important information that I can give you right now, that will help you right now, and that I want to share with the rest of your family right now, is that we know we have a new friend out there in the sky, called UVC. Is everybody hip to that? To UVC, we have UVA, UVB, and not to go much deeper, but we have a little bit of a depleted ozone. By current, David can maybe validate that for me or not, but the current predictions are that we're at about a 30% of our ozone layer, of about 30% left of what it was when it was strong and healthy. We know that we're in the middle of this little solar flare thing that's going on. Ancient knowledge, Vandana probably knows that even in Indian texts and stuff, that this is a common thing, that these solar flares is a cyclical thing, that it happens every so many years, it lasts for so many years. We combine the solar flares with our newer depleted ozone layer, and we are experiencing UVC, which is really, really super potentially dangerous. It doesn't have to be dangerous, but UVC is about 1 tick below X-rays on a frequency level. So I am told through a number of different sources that UVC is voracious on electrolytes, that it literally consumes electrolytes within our body. So what everybody's saying now is hydration's not enough. Hydration's not enough. Hydration's not enough. That, we're drinking water. We need to be replacing our electrolytes, even almost more importantly than the water. But the two of them go hand in hand. And if you went to some of the meetings last summer, I talked about this a little bit last summer. Really, it's just a hack. Really quick, easy hack, easy for everybody to do. And if I can get rid of so it's just Celtic sea salt. Can you see that with the glare?
Yeah.
Celtic sea salt. There we go. Light gray, natural Celtic sea salt. So this is salt that comes from a specific bay in Ireland. It is hand harvested only certain times during the year. It has been harvested this way for thousands and thousands of years. I am told that there are trace elements in things in this particular sea salt that are unavailable in other sources, that there's about 80 potential trace elements in here. If we're using pink salt we know is great. Pink salt's good for you. Most pink salt is mined, right? It's mined from a salt deposit. There are a few places on the earth where they actually harvest natural ocean salt water. This is one of those places. This is coarse, and it is loaded with almost instantly available electrolytes. And what I do, when I recommend to people, is if you're out there, I work outside, right? So I try to stay hydrated. And you can reach in, these are coarse crystals, and you can reach in and literally just grab one little tiny crystal when you're thirsty and place it under your tongue, right? You're going to place that under your tongue. Why under your tongue? Sublingual glands under your tongue. There are sublingual glands where it goes almost immediately into your bloodstream. There's little vessels in your nose. For cokeheads, it goes right in your bloodstream. The same ones are in your lungs. They're also under your tongue. So what I recommend is that, you put a little bit under your tongue, and then you take a little bit of water and hold it in your mouth for a second. Let it slip under your tongue. Hold that water in your mouth for just a sec. And kind of let it dissolve that salt. This is really quick, easy hack, easy to do. Keep it in your purse. Get some of this stuff, put it in a little plastic bag. Personally, I can feel it. I mean, if I've worked outside most of my life, so I'm very conscious of weather, heat, rain, wind, rain. I'm very conscious of all those things. I will tell you right now, this stuff is scorching, man. I mean, it's different. It's a different heat. It was really hot in some parts of the country today, where I'm on the water. I live on an island, man. I was like, it was like 70 with the wind blowing. It heats metal. I mean, it's different. So the solar activity is a little bit different. We need to protect ourselves a little bit from it. Another thing to know about real quick, we're talking about the sun. Remember about eyeglasses and sunwear, that you actually want to get a little natural sunlight every day. Don't wear sunglasses all the time. You're getting natural light into your eyes helps the pigmentation process in your skin, and that with sunglasses on, it actually shuts off the pigmentation process. So, we have to put on your sunglasses, go outside, put on lots of sunscreen, go outside. You're not even allowing the sun to give it the nutrients that it has for you. We really need to befriend the sun. We need to befriend it. And I'm going to tell you that you can absolutely talk to the sun, just like you can talk to water. And we still have time. We're going to teach you how to talk to water. And that's what this is all about. Another thing to write down real quick, and I shared with Vandana, I have a Facebook page that I started, 2014 or something, called Water Talkers. And the whole process of the website, or the page, was I used to have a website and everything. It was supposed to be an open forum, and what I wanted to do was give classes and have an open forum where people could share their results with all this super silly stuff that I'm sharing with you, right? So many things you can do with a glass of water for your own health. If you guys are into affirmations, we're going to get into that. You can put affirmations into your water and drink it. Sounds silly, right? Okay. How are we doing on time? What are you drinking for water? Are you drinking tap water? Is anybody drinking tap water? Be careful of tap water. So I highly recommend that if you don't have a filtration system in your house, find a filtration system that removes fluoride and chlorine.
I have a like a pure water filter.
It's good.
Okay.
2 water filters you kind of always want to have, both charcoal and porcelain. Porcelain removes cysts. Charcoal removes a lot of the goobers. And while we're talking about filtration, another video that I wanted to pull up, and this is something that I learned very recently, and this is way cool. Who would have thought of this? A water filtration system. You can take a grapevine, you can take a tree, you can take a plant, you can take a pine tree, cedar tree. You want to make sure that you don't use a poisonous tree like poison ivy or something, right? You can take a branch. So observe the tree, and you know that trees have this action, right? They can pull water up from the bottom and deliver all throughout the tree. So choose a branch, choose a tree, choose a branch, pine tree, cedar tree. Ask the tree, certainly, for permission to share a branch with you. You can share a branch and be noticing that when you cut the branch, I want you to notice which way the water's going. This is high level stuff. So simple, works. You can take scummy, rotten, dirty pond water. Notice which way that straw works. So consider that branch as a straw. You can carve it, stick it in a bottle, upside down on some dirty, rotty pond water. And you only need a branch about yay long. stick it in upside down and put another cup at the bottom of it and just let the water filter through the branch. Do you know that it comes out perfectly pristine, 100% clean? You can have it sent to the lab and checked. Because of the cellular structure, it has to pass through every single cell before it gets there. The cellular membrane cleans it. It's like, who would have thought? I just learned this literally weeks ago. What happens is, and Suzanne knows this, right? She asked me to speak. I shared with you. She asked me to speak to the Rhode Island Dowsing Association. You have no idea what you're going to speak about. But guess what? Stuff starts coming to you like every day, right? So I know I'm going to speak to you guys tonight. Stuff has been coming to me for weeks, and I learned this is a new thing. Like, I'm definitely going to try it. Like, who knew you could use a branch for a filter? So what are you drinking for water? Back to what are you drinking for water? Well water, hopefully, maybe bottled water. Certainly a carbon filter and a porcelain filter will do most of the filtering for you. Structuring, very, very important. We're going to talk about structuring water, how to structure water. Remember, we learned about that earlier. Again, Vandana knows that in homeopathy, we talked about this succussion, right? And we've talked about this, that when you're doing homeopathy and you're creating a tincture, she will take it and use gravity and just, and I'm literally less, I'm like using gravity, just like the water is falling to the floor from a waterfall. Literally will structure water. I learned this from Emoto's website. You can do this. Just the pounding, it's the gravity. You guys into bouncing at all? Have you ever heard of bouncing and what bouncing does for your the little tiny trampoline, jumping up and down, does amazing things for your blood. Same thing, structure, because it structures your blood. So we looked at cymatics. We looked at how sound can structure things. We're looking at how movement can structure things, right? You can just do that simply and structure your water. Next level thing is we talked about MJ Pagman. Go to her website, please, called Dancing with Water. She markets these little tiny vortex spinners. I think they're like $20 or something. And they're made to fit on a water bottle. What you do is you screw that onto one water bottle and you screw it onto another water bottle and you flip it upside down. Now, again, I had all these videos all set up. You can watch me do this if you want to. I did a whole bunch of videos years ago. It was called the 30-Day Body Mind Challenge with Peter Shank. If you just Google me, they'll probably come up. 30 days. So I was asked to do a video, and I love doing videos. I was asked to do a video. I had to do a 10-minute video every day for 30 days.
Wow.
And I did a couple videos on water. Video, I think 15 and 16. So I talk about writing messages on water, like Emoto did. We write messages on water, and I shared that with you. And I also talk about structuring water. So easiest, simplest way to structure it is the succussion thing. Next easiest way is this little guy, because it literally, when you flip the water upside down, it creates a vortex, and the water goes swimming down, and you just swing it back up the other way, and it creates a vortex again, and you just kind of swing them back and forth, and it just watch the video. The other interesting thing is that there is magnets, so you can see in the side of this thing, right? In this one there are 12 magnets. And what that does is it forces the water through a magnetic field. Evidence would suggest that the magnetic field completely obliterates any toxins. Anything that's not supposed to be in the water, that's not natural to the water, its molecular structure gets completely messed up and becomes inert as a result of being passed through the magnetic field. I'm not a scientist. apparently there's evidence to demonstrate that. So that is the next easiest way that you can structure your water. There's actually a spinner. Have you guys in science class, remember the little things in science class? There's a little magnetic plate, and you put the beaker on the magnetic plate, and you put like a little thing inside it, and you turn it on, and whoosh, it spins. You can buy one of these guys for $16. Get a beaker and start structuring your water. Get a nice little flask for your water, put it on that little thing, structure it. Simple, easy to do. We've talked about what happens to water when you stuff it in a 1/2-inch pipe and make it through pressure and make it take all these right angle turns. It obliterates the water. It has no structure to it. So simple to add that structure back to water so that when you consume it, you are now drinking H3O2, right? Instead of H2O. Really, really simple to do. Next thing is there's actually a machine that you can buy. I have one in the kitchen. And if you watch the silly videos, you'll see me. There's a machine that will structure it for you. You put the water in the bottle, you push the button, it spins it for like 20, 30 minutes. If you want to get into it at a whole nother level, you can use different minerals in your water as it's spinning. So spend $16 for a little spinner, get yourself a nice little beaker. You can use products like shungite. I don't know if you've ever heard of shungite. You put shungite, just put it in the water. You can put quartz crystals in the water. Why would you do something like that? Well, quartz crystals. Now, there was this story like on Facebook, like years ago, Edgar Cayce. We've heard about Edgar Cayce, and Edgar Cayce used to talk about he and Dr. D'Oreal. I don't know if you've heard of Dr. D'Oreal. I studied Dr. D'Oreal's stuff. Cayce used to talk about in ancient Egypt, both D'Oreal and Cayce claimed to be ancient Egyptian priests, and they talked about these 30-foot tall quartz crystals that used to beam Wi-Fi, electricity, all kinds of wireless stuff back in ancient Egypt. And scientists, a few years ago said, BS, that's a load of poop. Crystals don't grow that big. And then one day recently was it Nacia, Mexico, in the caves of Mexico, they found this cave with 30, 40, 50-foot crystals growing. Look it up. So in 1 minute, the community saying, not even possible, crystals don't even grow that big. A few years later, oh, there they are. Maybe Cayce was right. So crystals, quartz crystals. There's crystalline structures in the pineal gland, in your head, right in the middle of us. There's crystalline structures. We use crystals, piezoelectricity. We use crystals in our lighters. We use crystals in our watches. We use crystals in our computers. Do you think maybe that these guys are smart too? Potentially, right? So why not put them in the water? The water will absorb their intelligence. We talked about water sitting on geometric shapes. The water will absorb its intelligence. We talked about talking to water. Now, I've only got a few minutes left. What we're going to do, I'm going to give everybody, has everybody got a bottle of water? I mean, a glass of water. If I'm going to give everybody a couple minutes, just get a glass of water so you can have a glass of water with you.
Can you use metal?
Yeah. Glass of water.
Okay. I didn't know if that changed anything.
I'm going to share a few things here. So again, I'm going to lean on Vandana because Vandana knows, the folks in India have been doing this stuff for thousands of years, right?
Yeah.
A copper water bottle. There's a thing about copper, letting water rest. There's also a thing about structuring water and letting it rest, that it likes to rest for a little bit. And if you let it rest, perhaps even overnight, and copper, it has all kinds of antimicrobial, anti properties, right? Fonda can maybe even speak a little bit more about it than I can. Copper. The reason I use a copper glass also is because copper is a conductor of electricity. So when we do this little exercise, we're actually going to use both of our hands because it creates a circuit, right? It completes a circuit. And copper being a conductor of electricity I want to put my water in copper and I want to hold on to it like this because it's completing a circuit. So let's just do this. We only have a couple minutes left and I'm going to do this. So I would ask you to take your glass of water, and the words that I were taught, the words that I was taught to say is that I honor the space in which you exist. Now, I do this every single day. I do a little water ceremony every single morning. I literally do. Part of this process is also getting the water to know you and to recognize you and to sync with you. So if you've been to RIHHA meetings and you've talked and you've seen me speak about syncing your heart to the earth, right? And holding your hand out, and you hold your right hand to your heart and your left hand to the earth, and you're syncing your heart to the earth. And we talk about how that happens in nature, and we have all kinds of, if you've come see us, come to a RIHHA meeting, come to a meeting, and we'll talk about it more, how this works. Everything naturally wants to synchronize. So we're going to use our body to synchronize our body with the water. So I've poured my water. I'm going to get a little water. Again, I'm going to drop another little. So many things. You guys got to write some of this stuff down. Can you see this?
Tourmaline Spring.
Tourmaline Spring in Maine. Now, this stuff is crazy, crazy, crazy. It comes from a Gila, and Dr. Dave is going to really flip out on this if you don't know about Tourmaline Spring. I never knew about it. Interestingly, my folks had a summer cottage in Maine, in Harrison, Maine, on Long Lake, where I learned how to water ski. This spring is in Harrison, Maine. Never knew about it. It bubbles up through Tourmaline.
Oh, I left it unlocked.
And it is
Oh.
gravity fed. There are no machines in the bottling process of this. It is completely gravity fed. Even the bottles, and if you look at the plant, there's two big wheels that spin that are being spun by water power. One of them pushes the bottle up, and the water goes by gravity, is fed into the bottle, and then the bottle swings around, and the next little thing spins the cap on, and that's it. Untouched by human hands, no machinery, no nothing. Gravity fed into this. It is the only water I know of, I guess. It claims to be the only water that is so pure that the FDA says that you don't have to do a bloody thing to it. This stuff is incredible. You want to talk about drinking some crazy water? This stuff is really, it's incredible. It's only $1.38 per bottle, which is pretty good for water prices. Try getting it shipped. It's expensive to ship because it's heavy. So I treated myself to some. I found out about it. I wanted to have some. I just treated myself to it as a treat. I don't drink it all the time, but it is off the charts. It really is off the charts. Off the charts. I'm going to take some of my off the charts water. I'm going to pour it into here. Now, there are three main energy centers in your body, and the Peruvian traditions, so they're called eyes or nawis, right? So there's an eye right here, kind of just below your navel, right, in your eye. There's another eye right here at your heart, and another eye right here at the center of your head. Yankai, Yachai, and Munai. Yachai, thinking. Munai, your heart. Yachai is action from your center. So what I do, I pour my little water, and I hold it like this with my two hands, and I hold it right here. And I take a deep breath. And I just sit with it for a minute. And take a really deep breath. And what I'm trying to do is to use my eye, and I'm trying to connect with the water so that I make a connection, a physical connection with the water. And then I take it and I hold it to my heart. And you could do this with a bottle of water. I highly recommend doing this. Hold it to your heart center, because naturally you're breathing, your heart is beating, and the water is sinking to you. So that when you drink it, now if you just take a few minutes to do this, the water is going to be more readily available to you. Let's just call it more bioavailable. We're making the water more bioavailable. And then I hold it to my here. And same thing. Just close my eyes. I just take a deep breath. And then I actually hold it up like this to the sky, right? Now I'm holding it to the sky. It's above heart level. And I'm really kind of just in an acknowledgement way. I'm just kind of acknowledging it. I'm holding it as high. I'm holding it as something esteemed, as something sacred, right? And I think that, after tonight, hopefully we agree that water is certainly sacred, to say the very least. And anything is only as sacred as you make it, right? So, I mean, I'm surrounded by all these things in this room. I'm surrounded by all kinds of things that are sacred, and I make them more sacred every day because I pump all kinds of energy into them. The little maces that we have that we use in this tradition. I talk to them every single day. I blow my prayers into them every single day so that they become power pieces. And the reason they are power pieces is because the amount of energy that should be put into them day after day, year after year after year after year. So we're acknowledging. I want to pull this back down like this. And hold it right in here. And then I use those magic words. I honor the space in which you exist. I say, thank you, water. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. Thank you for your love, light, wisdom, and service. So now we've acknowledged water. We've hooked our water up. We've hooked our body up to it. We've connected our mind to it. We've connected our heart to it. We've connected our energy center to it. We have spoken to it. And now we have acknowledged it. We said, I honor the space in which you exist. Thank you for your love, light, wisdom, and service. And now I'm going to ask you to do something for me. Now, what I do is I take some nutrients in the morning. So I do all I take a bunch of crazy stuff in the morning. All natural stuff, no pills, right? Honey, coconut oil. There's a few little things I do. I take neem, turmeric, make little neem balls, little turmeric balls. So I asked the water, I said, thank you. I honor the space in which you exist. Please, water, at this time, I would ask that you deliver all of these nutrients to every cell in my body. So I'm asking it to deliver all these nutrients to every cell in my body. And then I say, thank you, I love you. Thank you, I love you, man. And blow your breath over the water. Now that's a biblical thing, right? It's a biblical thing. He blew his breath over the water. So now what are we doing? So we're completely tuning the water to us in such a magnificent way that it only takes a couple of moments. It takes a couple of seconds to tune in. And now you've befriended this thing, like this water now. Now the water is like, this guy's cool. Like you chicks, you're hip, man. I'm like, I would really love to work for you. And that's all we're doing. We're asking it to work for us. And you can ask it to do all kinds of things. Now, to do this, you take a little sip. Hold it in your mouth. Let your tongue just float around in there and absorb that through the sublingual glands in your mouth. So we structured our water. It has maybe a little bit more oxygen to it, maybe a little bit more bioavailable. We've centered ourselves. We've connected ourselves with the water so that the water is actually tuned to us. It has our heartbeat now. It has our breathing rhythm. It has what's going on in our head, right? And not only that, we've asked it to be in service. We thanked it for being in service, and now we're asking it to be in service. And we blew our wishes into it. I'm going to invite you to take this anywhere you want to go with it. Now, I've demonstrated that you potentially can heal bones with it, broken bones. I've demonstrated that you potentially could have amazing health results, that you could have a malady, that you could be working on something that you're throwing everything but the kitchen sink at. And maybe you got the big C or something like that. Like, I know that if I get diagnosed with something that's a problem, I'm going to throw everything but the kitchen sink at it. I'm going to do everything in my power to correct that malady. Now, that's going to be different for everybody, and everybody's choices are many different. And certainly if you know me I do not recommend anybody to take the choices I take, because I like, I fly by the seat of the pants. So, and I don't recommend that to anybody, but I think that if you would just take these few tips, right? I think this is being recorded, right? Vandana, this is going to be available for folks.
Yes.
Yeah. So, again, I didn't tell you what to find. Hopefully I shared with you where to look. Check out these scientists, check out this whole thing. Anybody have any questions? See, I covered it all, huh? Is everybody comfortable?
Mhm.
Okay. It's 8:30. We're at the bottom of the hour. I want to thank everybody for joining me tonight. I really
Thank you.
hope that I opened the door for you to a path that really is of your own creating. It really is. I think that if you use this information and you do it diligently and you do it daily, craft it for yourself, amazing things can happen. Absolutely amazing things. And it's really just utilizing a tool that's there for us. It's been there all along. Water's always been there for us. We need to be there for it. So with that, Jen, I thank you for joining me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. My heart goes out to you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was awesome, Jim.
Fascinating.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. We only touched, I probably could do a whole weekend on water. There's so many places you can go with this. I mean, we didn't talk about buckyballs and carbon-6. There's so many things that you can do to enhance your water, to make it more bioavailable and make it like, like a little glass of dynamite.
Mhm.
I'm really going to use it. I'm going
Good.
to do it.
And if you're on Facebook, go to the it's just called Water Talker. That's got a little thing of a guy talking, scroll through some of those posts. I mean, there's some old posts and there's some really, really cool stuff in there. There really is. Both indigenous wisdom, local wisdom. Yeah, it's a great tool. I'm crazy about water.
Is the recording stopped?
No, not yet. You want to? Okay, give me a minute.
Well, I mean, unless you want this, I
Wait.
have a question.
Sure.
Yeah, go.
So I would just quickly say that there is a water conference, maybe like every year or every 2 years, in different places in all over the world. So
Mhm.
that would be fascinating. Like many, Veda Austin goes to water conference, and many other water scientists, they go as well. And it's a fascinating, all knowledge coming from different sources.
Mm.